Okay, this is going to be a quick lesson on HTML special characters. Okay, so I'm going to create a new document, empty document. Rename it specialcars.html. Alright, now in my text editor, open the file, it's empty. Using Atom, there's little code snippets. I type HTML and tab and it starts everything out for me, which is really nice. So in this body tag, this is the main content of your website. Okay, let's say we have an H1 tag and we're going to make a web page about HTML tags. So we're going to have an H1, which is a large heading. It says HTML tags. You always incrementally test what you've done. So I made a small change, added one element, and I save it. Now let's open it up, see what it looks like. HTML tags. Okay, that's exactly what I expected, so that's good. We're in good shape so far. So let's say I want to talk about the div tag. Well, I could say div is a container tag. Just some plain text, that's fine. Div is a container tag. But what if I want to show the less than and greater than sign? Well, now this is awkward because HTML is looking at this and says, oh, that's a div element. So if I save this and save, it thinks I made a div element. It's trying to figure out what I'm doing. I don't have valid code, so it's doing the best it can. And it gets rid of that div there because that's an HTML element. Okay, so these characters have to be specially encoded since HTML considers the less than character and the greater than character part of its language. So if you actually want to display that character, you have to use the escape sequence. Okay, so the escape sequence in HTML for the less than symbol is ampersand, LT for less than, and semicolon. See, Atom highlights that. Ampersand, LT for less than, and a semicolon. And then on the other side, for greater than, we can say ampersand, GT for greater than, semicolon. Okay, if we save this and reload, there it is. That's what we're looking for. Alright, and it's all because HTML, the browser is reading through this text and it sees a greater than symbol and it says, oh, that's part of HTML, so they must be trying to write a tag. Well, actually, we want to actually display this less than sign, so we have to escape out of HTML land, which is what the ampersand does. It's another special character in HTML, which means if I want to write an ampersand here, it oftentimes won't work. In this case, it does work because it doesn't see any of the other special character stuff afterwards. But there's a special character escape sequence, AMP, for ampersand. And I reloaded the page and nothing happened. So let's do a BR tag, put it on another line, so we know for sure that this is doing what we think. Sure enough, it did. Okay. So another special character in HTML is the quotation string. It works sometimes. Let's do another BR tag. We reload. Okay. In some circumstances it works fine, but in other circumstances you'll find it won't. In those cases you need to use ampersand, QUOT, semicolon. Ampersand, QUOT, semicolon. Alright. Oh, let's It's yelling at me here. Special characters. Okay, there's a whole list of HTML special characters. Go to W3 Schools, see what they have here. Okay, so you've got, Greek letters, you've got mathematical symbols, you've got all sorts of things here. Trademark, copyright, so that's and copy. Let's try that one. So, and copy. So let's see what that looks like. There you go. So there's all these special characters. So if you have any trouble with a character not rendering properly in your HTML, look to W3 Schools or any other resource on the web for HTML special characters, and there is a whole lot of them. So you can go through and look, see what you can find. There's way more than this. Other websites will have more resources. So that's important to know, especially if you're doing that tag assignment. You might run into this if you are actually trying to put the tags, the less than and greater than sign around them. Now another thing you can do for that particular case is you can use the code tag. Well, that actually doesn't fix the less than or greater than, but it highlights your text as if it were computer code. Okay, so you could say we might want to put a code tag around this div stuff. Okay, oops, I did a /div. But you see how that looks like a computer output? It's monospaced, so every character has the same width, okay, which helps encoding. So that gives it more of a computer feel, and when you do that, when people read it, they're like, oh, that must be something, on the computer terminal or some sort of code. So that's a nice tag. There's another special character that you do need to know about. That's pretty important. Is Ampersand NBSP. That's a non-breaking space. It comes from the old days, very old days, I believe, with typewriters and printers. It doesn't have much. The name doesn't make much sense nowadays. But basically, this is extra white space. So in HTML, you'll find that extra white space all gets squished down into one white space. So look at this. I do T space T space space T, and 4 spaces and more. If we let me throw in a BR tag. Reload the page, see, it's all equidistant, it's all equal spaced. And even if you have, oops, Adam did that. If you have a new line character, which that means you go to a new line, all of these will just be one white space across. Okay? So the browser takes out all of this space. It collapses it into one space. So anytime you have multiple spaces in a new line, that all gets turned into just one space when it renders it. Alright, so if we do break, we can have a single character T, and if we want our single space we can type that in, or we can just type in a non-breaking space. If I want 2 spaces, I can do a regular space and then a non-breaking space, or 2 non-breaking spaces right in a row. See how that we actually get some space there. So that should be 4 spaces. There you go. So that one can that can help you out when you are messing around with stuff and trying to figure out why things aren't quite displaying right. So non-breaking space is an important one you'll probably run into. Okay, there's a lot of them to look at, so you can look them up on the web and find out any others you might need. So that's all there is for special characters.